there, it's Christy with the Chirp YouTube channel. I am here today to answer some more of your mail. I got a wonderful question from a mom whose son has frequent sensory issues. He's under the care of an occupational therapist, and the mom was wondering what sort of triggers she might be looking for that might cause some of these sensory issues to emerge. I already answered this mom, but I thought it was a great question and I wanted to answer it for the rest of you who may not read the comments and my responses. I would encourage you to do that and to ask questions in the comments and to read the responses that I've already written to other families or other professionals, because the more comments that we have on this channel, the more YouTube will promote these videos and the more families and other professionals will be able to find them so that they too can get support and encouragement for working with the kids in their lives. And that's what we want. Let me preface this by saying I have done lots and lots of videos about sensory needs, and I will continue to do so because this is one of the most frequently searched terms that I run across in my field. And this is one of the biggest things that prevents students from being engaged with the world. Their sensory system is not working quite right, and they can't therefore tune in to the world around them. All of the videos that I have done on sensory strategies, sensory processing, sensory needs, anything related to that will be in the playlist on my channel that is called Sensory. That should be pretty easy for you to find. I will put links to the videos in that playlist that I think will probably be the most helpful for you in the information box below this video, so please take a peek at that before you move on. The first thing that I wanted to tell this mom, and that I would like to tell you as well, is that there really isn't such a thing as a sensory trigger. A trigger is something that, combined with other circumstances, other tendencies, leads to a behavior. In the case of a sensory need, this is more like a hunger, more like an itch that needs to be scratched. It is the underlying cause for many behaviors that we see, but it doesn't need a trigger to manifest itself. Let's assume that you have an itch on your back that you can't reach and that is driving you crazy. Are you able to learn? No. Are you able to communicate effectively with other people? No. Are you able to do anything, really, except think about that itch? Only with extreme difficulty. From my perspective and from my experience of working with these kids and talking with these kids, that's kind of the experience that they're having. They have a sensory need that is not getting met in their daily routine. They have a bucket. Let's say they have a bucket for visual stimulation. When that bucket gets too empty, they're not going to be able to function. Another child may have a bucket in the area of proprioceptive input. If that bucket gets too empty, that child is not going to be able to function. I'm putting a link right above me, a little card will come out. That is a link to my video on sensory needs and strategies that will help you meet those needs. If you're not aware of what proprioceptive input is, if you're not aware of what visual input might be, then please watch that video. In that video, I'm very detailed and clear about the 8 different sensory modalities that we have and how to meet needs in those different areas. I think you'll find it helpful. When a child's bucket is empty, any pressure placed on that child is going to cause a problem, is going to cause a meltdown, is going to cause some sort of behavioral issue that you wish didn't happen. It's going to cause a problem because the bucket is empty. This child is not able to get his needs met without additional input into that bucket. You could kind of consider it a banking transaction as well. You have to put money in the bank in order to take money out of the bank. If your child has a hole in the vestibular bucket, you're going to have to put more money into that account in order for your child to function at the level you want him to. There are a lot of different analogies that I can make in this area, but I hope you're getting the idea that it's not that there's a trigger like a loud noise and then your child automatically starts having sensory issues. It's an underlying problem of dysregulation, not being able to keep calm without additional support. Most babies learn this by the time they're 6 months old, how to self-regulate, how to calm themselves down. Our kids have more trouble with that because their sensory systems are always causing them uproar. They're not getting what they need to be able to regulate their own bodies, and we want to provide that as much as possible. In case you aren't aware of how it might appear when a child is having a lot of sensory needs, I'm putting a link right up there that will flash up, so take a peek at that. If you notice a lot of those kind of symptoms, then you definitely want to get the help of someone who knows what they're doing in the area of sensory processing. The main people who do this are occupational therapists, although please try to get an occupational therapist who has a special background in sensory processing. Most of them don't. It's not something that is taught in their graduate program. It has to be a postgraduate school type of training. So please find one, if you can, who's a specialist. I have put a link down below to sensory processing disorder occupational therapists, and hopefully there's one in your area. If not, read as much as you can, learn as much as you can from YouTube, from other sources, from fora, different places online where you can interact with other families and professionals. Those are great places to learn if you don't have access to an occupational therapist, or even if you do, but you'd like to educate yourself further. You need to identify what your child's sensory needs are. And the videos that I've already linked to should help you with that, and hopefully so should your occupational therapist. And once you know what those are, you want to make sure that you're providing those inputs that your child needs more of at regular intervals throughout each day. I always recommend, if possible, 4 different 10 to 15 minute bouts throughout the day of really intense sensory input. So if your child, for example, needs proprioceptive input, this is input to the joints and ligaments and tendons and all of the internal pieces that hook the body together. A lot of kids need more pressure on their joints, more pressure on all of their pieces to help them feel calm, to help them know where their body is in the world and how all their pieces work together. You might have 5 minutes of trampoline followed by 5 minutes of steamroller, which is where you roll back and forth across the child, or a sibling does this, or a classmate does this. Make sure it's not creepy. Usually we put a yoga mat in between, or we have one student roll on a yoga ball or sit on a yoga ball gently. We don't want any of this to be unpleasant, and if the child doesn't like it, we don't do it, because then it's not helpful. We're looking for inputs that fill that hunger that the child has. Once again, I'm going to send you to the information box below this video for a couple of really great links on different sensory needs and specific activities of how you can meet those sensory needs in a home or in a classroom. Once you have figured out what those activities are that really meet your child's needs and help him to feel calm, to feel regulated, or if he's really droopy, to feel a little more lively, then we need to institute those throughout the day. Think about this when you're pondering. If you simply snacked all day long, you just ate a few nuts here, an apple there, and then a couple of bananas, and then some rice and vegetables, and then maybe some popcorn, do you think at any point during the day you would feel full? My guess is that pretty much the whole day you would feel hungry and you would be thinking about food and you would be kind of hyper-focused on food even though you had just eaten. It's the same for your children. They need regular sensory meals throughout the day. Most kids with sensory dysfunction or disorders don't get enough sensory input from the activities of daily life to help them stay calm and regulated. A typical child usually does, with recess, with going to school on the bus and getting that vibration, with riding in the car and getting that visual stimulation, with running around after school or jumping on the trampoline for 2 minutes. Maybe that's enough sensory input for that typically developing child. For our children with disorders in this area, that's not enough input. And it's sporadically spaced throughout the day, so it feels like snacking. It's never quite enough. It never really scratches that itch or fills the stomach the way these kids need to experience it. We need to provide them chunks of time where they're focused on meeting their sensory needs. This is called a sensory diet. I've done videos on this before, which I will put links to in the info box, so look at them, don't forget. And I recommend one in the morning, maybe when they wake up in the morning, 10 to 15 minutes of whatever those activities are. Split them up between different activities so it's not just 15 minutes of jumping on the trampoline. That can be kind of boring. Unless that's what your kid really wants and needs, then do it. But I recommend kind of mixing it up a little. And then if your child is still at home, then spending some time right before lunch, right after lunch, whatever the case may be for your child, when the child gets home from school or in the afternoon, and then in the evening before bed. None of these activities should be ones that are so stimulating that the child isn't able to sleep, or that the child just ate and then you do something and because the food is there, the child throws up or feels queasy. That's not the kind of activities we're looking for. Once again, check those websites that show you the kind of activities I'm talking about, and talk to your occupational therapist about which activities are right for your child during these sensory meals. If your child is in school, hopefully the school district has noted that your child needs some extra sensory input, and you are now wise enough that you can share what is working for you and the frequency with which your child needs these sensory meals throughout the day. Perhaps at school your child needs one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and then you do the other two at home. Your school should have an occupational therapist on staff, or at least as part of a consulting model. And I recommend that you talk to that person, mention what you've been doing at home, mention what you've been learning and how it's helping your child, and request that that occupational therapist train the teachers if necessary, train the other people in the class, and make the classroom more welcoming for your child. That is how your child is going to learn best. When his sensory system is able to help him stay calm, when he doesn't always have that itch, when he isn't always feeling hungry in a sensory sense. We want kids to be available for learning. The most important thing is that we help them to be calm and regulated so they are available to interact with their environment, to engage with the world around them, and to learn from what's happening around them. There you have it. Thank you for asking this question, you wonderful mom. I appreciate that so many of you are learning and looking in lots of different places to find tools to equip yourselves to become better parents and better support systems for the beautiful children that God has placed into your life. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you next week with a brand new video. Bye.